So for more now, I'm joined by Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, member of the Appropriations Committee and the Intelligence Committee. Representative Schiff, as always, a pleasure. Thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure.
What do you hear from the president on Tuesday night?
Well, I want to hear him make the case again for why we need to move on immigration reform, an increase in the minimum wage. But I think, as you indicated earlier, we're also going to see a pivot to what the president can do on his own administratively. And I think that's wise. He's dealing with an incredibly dysfunctional Congress. He shouldn't put all his eggs in the legislative basket. The other thing I'd like to see, Alex, and this is not just on Tuesday night, but in the year to come, that is, the president is at his best and most effective when his name is on the ballot and when he has a campaign-like approach to what he wants to get done. And I think that same kind of focus on message, on making sure that every action he takes is brought back to his message, that relentless discipline he ought to bring forward, beginning with the playbook that he announces Tuesday night and continuing all year long.
Dan Pfeiffer, as you know, sent out that preview yesterday, and here's how it read in part, quote, "The president will lay out a set of real, concrete, practical proposals to grow the economy, strengthen the middle class, and empower all who hope to join it." So with those specific proposals, how do you see those playing out? What do you want them to look like?
Well, and I think that's exactly the right focus. We still haven't left where we were at the beginning of 5 years ago, and that is the economy is still the major concern for Americans. So I would expect that to be the bulk of what he has to say. And the challenge will be articulating how he can, through the executive office, through the power of the administration, improve people's job prospects, attack the problem of this growing gulf between rich and poor. And I think that a lot of his proposals are going to be along these lines. And there's a lot that he can achieve. I also, Alex, don't expect him to shy away from the Affordable Care Act. That will be the largest administrative task of this year. And so I think he can do a lot to make that a success, and really will need to continue to keep a focus on burnishing that part of his legacy.
But regarding the former talking about, I mean, let's be honest. The White House has been calling for a jobs recovery and a strengthening of the middle class for 5 years now. So what's going to be different this time?
Well, I think he'll point out just how much we have achieved in those 5 years, because there's been an enormous amount of job growth. We're in a much better position now than we were before. But I think he's also going to point to things that he can get done administratively, new initiatives he can undertake to make sure that we're hiring veterans, that we're hiring people who are long-term unemployed, that we're working together in a collaborative fashion, the private and public sector, that our community colleges are retooling so that they can meet the needs of the new economy. These are things that don't require big legislation. They could use a boost from a president focused on the task, and these are things that can be done in a collaborative way.
All right, let's switch gears a bit now and talk about security at the Sochi Olympics. Let's take a listen to your colleague from the Intelligence Committee, Congressman Peter King, in an interview this morning.
Now, this is a dangerous situation. Hopefully things will work out, but it's nowhere near ideal. And again, I can't emphasize enough, the Russians have not been cooperative as far as sharing intelligence. Again, the Greeks did, the Chinese did, the Brits did, the Russians are not, and theirs is the most dangerous.
Do you agree? Are the Russians not sharing their intelligence?
They're not sharing their intelligence the way that we would like them to, the way they should. On the other hand, it's not a big surprise. We don't have the same kind of relationship with them that we have with the British and with other nations, even with the Chinese. So it's not all that much of a surprise at the moment, particularly when you consider the fallout after the Boston bombing and the finger-pointing about the fact the Russians should have provided us more information that would have let us, potentially chase down leads before that tragedy. So not surprising. Yes, they can do more. I also think, though, at the end of the day, the risks are pretty manageable for people wanting to go to the Olympics. The most dangerous part, I'm convinced, of the Olympics will be the traffic on the way there. It is a big target, and they could be doing more.
But in a worst-case scenario, sir, U.S. officials told my colleagues at NBC that they do not have an evacuation plan prepared should something happen. I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, we'll have resources near the region. We'll have 2 ships near the region. But I think that's accurate. The reality is we're going to be reliant on the Russians. We can't simply fly into Russian airspace and do what we want to evacuate our people. So at the end of the day, if there is some kind of attack and we want to get our people out of there, in the first instance, our security people on the ground, as limited as they may be, will make sure that we move people, hopefully, to a safe area within Sochi until plans can be made for an evacuation, but we are going to be heavily reliant on the Russians any way you look at it.
All right, Representative Adam Schiff, are you going or are you just watching the games?
Oh, I wish I was going. I would go if I had tickets, but I'll be watching and rooting.
Okay, me too. We'll be right there with you. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
You bet.